Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, the first episode of the week, arriving on Wednesday. I know we didn't go live last night, but I was spending some time with my family, and the good news is you are going to get a morning episode Wednesday, which is today, Thursday, which is tomorrow, and Friday. All right, so the rest of the week will be a normal Shields and Arrows week. So it's like old times, meeting at 9:30 in the morning, an hour before, well, an hour and a half before Dr. White goes live with Ask the Theologian. So when the show wraps up, 30 minutes from now, you can hop on Ask the Theologian. Now, I made the mistake. We're only going live to YouTube today. I apologize. That's entirely my fault. I accept full responsibility. It was because I had some settings punched into the equipment and I forgot. So I'm going to have to put this on the website later. All right. So I do apologize about that. But at least we're going live on YouTube. Thank you all for joining us. Now, we also had a hiccup on the sermon for Hosea. I guess we just dropped internet. There may be some other issues going on behind the scenes, so apologize for that. I hope that you can be patient with me. But the good news is I will eventually reteach that sermon. I've done it before. I will do it again, and I'm sure it's not the last time. All right. I do need to record these things. I've been working on making myself record them. I just haven't done it yet. That's a me problem, not a you problem. Now, let's see here. We're going to talk a little bit of politics. We're going to get to a little bit of theology. We have some questions lined up for Theology Thursday, which we will get to tomorrow. So let's see here. What I want to do first and foremost, how do I want to divvy this up as I'm trying to reflect on all of this? What do I want to do? Here's what I'm going to do. Let's start at the macro level. All right, federal, national politics, international politics, what have you, and then we'll shrink it down to the local level. All right, does that sound good? Let's do that, and then let's wrap up with theology. We have an interesting article from CARM, which is the Christian Apologetics Research Ministries. They have an article on Mystery Babylon that they posted a few days ago. So I'm going to take some time to look at that, explore what their thoughts are on it and how they approach addressing it. Do they even give an answer? That's an interesting question. And then let's see here. We're going to get into Trump's peace deal as far as international stuff. We'll briefly talk about the government shutdown. Yes, it's still going on. Then we're going to talk about some local political stuff, specifically Oklahoma, but it has broader applications as well. Now, I do want to let you all know that tonight we are taking the night off, so we will not be studying Abraham. All right, I do apologize. I know that's just ruined your entire day because that's the one thing, that's the whole reason you got out of bed this morning was to watch the Abraham study. We're just taking the week off. This is fall break for the schools, and so the church is taking the Wednesday night off, and so we'll get back to it. But no Abraham this week. I know you're very disappointed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break your heart. Okay, let's talk about international first and foremost. Okay, Trump has gotten a peace deal done with Israel and Hamas. Or at least a ceasefire. We're hoping that's going to be the case. So far, it looks like there hasn't been any violations of it. Now, I don't know if you have evidence that Israel or Hamas has violated the peace deal, the hostage release, then by all means be sure to let me know. Now, it does seem like Hamas may have undermined the ceasefire deal. So if you want to, point names and blame fingers at Israel, well, Hamas also may be guilty here. But as far as I know, I haven't seen anything from Israel's side yet. I guess there's some speculation. I'm sure if you ask Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, they've got something that they're going to say, yeah, absolutely, here's Israel violating the deal. But Hamas has handed over a wrong body, so the bodies of 3 of their hostages were recovered, but the 4th does not match any of the hostages. So, Hamas has allowed many of the hostages to die, so maybe they don't have a body to account for, and that's a problem there. We're going to see how all this plays out. The point is, hostages were released. A deal, at least to some degree, was struck. Nobody's going to know how this plays out until we see how the coming weeks, the coming months unfold. But I will just remind you, okay? Let me try to do a big picture for just a second. Biden was never going to get a deal done. Or Jill or Hunter or whoever was in charge during Biden's presidency, there was never going to be a deal made. All right, so I know that there's some people who are hyper critical of Trump for all sorts of reasons. Maybe you think he's not doing a good job on the border. Maybe you think he's not doing a good job on foreign matters. Maybe you think he's in Benjamin Netanyahu's back pocket. I don't know. All sorts of critics of Trump, what have you. Allow me to just try to be somewhat practical in the room. There is a deal done. Maybe we're done seeing as much conflict going on. Gaza can get back to being Gaza, which for all those that want Israel to leave the Palestinians alone, I think the Palestinians are carrying out business now. I know that Hamas just publicly executed some guys. So it sounds like almost like business as usual over there. Anyways, Ken says, from what I understand, different groups could have the bodies outside of Hamas. So who knows? Yeah, I mean, and Hamas is, propped up by Iran and the Houthis, however you say that. I'm going to just say with an Oklahoma accent. They're all intermingled, working together. So who knows exactly? Some of this may not ever, entirely play out. But that's where things stand right now. Just a reminder, this broke out under Biden's administration. It dragged on for 2 years. And now Trump, within the first year of his administration, has gotten way more accomplished than what Biden has. All right, or Biden ever did. Just to remind you, just for the naysayers, I get it. I know you want whoever to be president and an isolationist, and you want to cut ties with everybody. I get it. But I'm just looking at reality here. If we're going to have this massive federal government and we're going to have a president sitting in the White House, Trump's doing a pretty good job. All right, I'm just going to say it. I know that. Does that make me a terrible person? Am I allowed to say that Trump's doing a pretty good job? I think all things considered, the federal government is what the federal government is. It's as broken as it can be. So considering the guy's working with a broken machine, hey, there you go. We'll see how it continues. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows whether this is going to lead to World War III. That's what they keep telling us. Or if it's going to maybe end in some kind of peace deal, right? A little bit of peace and quiet over in the Middle East, which is hard to come by. They haven't really had it for a good long time. Ever since, Amraphel marched in and, conquered the cities of the, Sodom and Gomorrah. It's been going on as long as we can recall. Ever since Tabul lit the lamp of war from the flickering lamp of peace, in the words of Rudyard Kipling. Now, let's get a little bit more small scale here, getting out of the international politics. Let's talk about the local matters, at least in the sense of our I used the wrong word, not local, but national. The government is still shut down. And it is the Democrats doing it, okay? I really think that the Democrats are not going to gain anything out of this. They really think that they can play it as this is the Republicans shutting down the government. We all know, if you are the minority party and the majority is all voting to pass a resolutions bill. Now, is there anybody here, show of hands, anyone, that has been happy with a continuing resolutions bill passed by Congress ever? No, there's always too much spending. There's always way too much going on with the federal government, all right? We're sending money to everybody. So we're never happy, but the truth is, you are the one controlling the government shutdown. Now, maybe that's justified. If the Democrats were in the majority and they were trying to pass a continuing resolutions bill that included a whole bunch of spending to other countries or I don't know, transgender orangutans living in South America. Are there any orangutans in South America? I have no clue. But my point is, we would probably be for, hey, let's shut this thing down. Let's make them at least hurt a little bit before we pass this, ridiculous continuing resolutions. My point in saying that is it's the minority, the ones that are controlling whether or not the government opens. So the Democrats get to play as if, oh no, it's the Republicans who have shut down the government. No, that's not it. We all know the truth. The Democrats obviously are mad because there's not enough spending for Medicaid on, I don't know, illegals, what have you. True small government types would also be frustrated with the Republicans because, hey, the continuing resolutions bill is absurd and way too big. That's the state of things. I don't think this is going to hurt the Republicans. I think that it's the Democrats that really are holding the whole thing hostage right now. And I know that there's been some work done to try to pay the military. I know there's been a shifting of funds, and maybe that's going to hurt military readiness because, hey, now we're taking funds away from the military for certain purposes, and it's going to just making paychecks so they can, meet those basic needs. So all of that to be said, nothing's changed. I don't see anything happening in the next couple days. And I think the Republicans just need to ensure the people know that all the Democrats have to do is vote yes. And it's really just maintaining the status quo. I don't think that right now the Democrats have a lot of ground to stand on. Now, the midterms are always very difficult for the party in power because you can blame them for everything, even though that's not always justified. But I think the Republicans are sitting in a pretty good place. Now, the Epstein files, if those get reignited, that was a major loss because it made Pam Bondi look ridiculous, and she always looks ridiculous because I've never heard her be right about anything, basically. It does throw some mud on Trump, even though Trump's already had a bunch of mud thrown on him. Hey, was he in on it? Him and Epstein seem to have known each other. What's the deal? Can we please get the whole story? So the Epstein thing has been one of the ways they've been able to get Trump. The strong, people who are thinking that Israel is conspiring against the United States, and so you got to be super diligent to dive the depths of all the trails and the records and the connections, and hey, who knows how far this goes. Charlie Kirk, you name it. They're, of course, not a fan of Trump because Trump plays nice with Israel and has said nice things about Netanyahu and everything else. But other than really those two things, I don't think there's a lot that's hurting Trump right now. Maybe the sending National Guard troops to Chicago. Once again, though, is that really outside of his rights? Now, those who will claim a pure constitutionalist view, well, yeah, back when the Constitution was, ratified and everything else, there was a lot of things the federal government didn't have the capacity to do that now, through the passing of bills and precedents at the Supreme Court level, the government's a whole lot bigger than the Founding Fathers ever envisioned, all right? So just because you go back to the founding of the United States does not mean that what Trump's doing is necessarily illegal, because it is concerning the enforcement of federal law. It's the enforcement and support of federal agents. I'm not saying that I like it. I'm just saying the man is justified, is he not? Remember, the military was deployed to enforce school desegregation. Like, that was a thing that happened. Now, it's not that we're pro-segregation, but it's where, you have two different issues coming together. We are for small government. We're not for segregation, but big government was used to force desegregation. So, it's a lose-lose situation, kind of. or a lose-win situation, however you want to word that. You get my point, right? Sometimes big government comes in to do something that, you know, you would agree is morally right. Okay, we need to enforce our laws. It's a good thing to not have this segregation that treats people of different classes and what have you. But we don't want federal government to come in and be the one doing everything. Like, let the state handle this, right? We want to keep government as small and local as possible. So I say all that to get into all those weeds to just say, I think that the Trump administration has had quite a successful year. You know, we're getting close to a year of being in office. Tariffs, everybody freaked out about the tariffs. I haven't seen tariffs become a major factor for us other than maybe specifically China. We got to quit relying on China so much. All right, all of my thermal hog hunters out there, quit buying Chinese thermals. All right, cut it out. And don't give me the whole, well, you know, these companies that don't build in China, you know where they're getting their parts from. Okay, fine. You know what? If you will give them enough support, maybe they can afford to start manufacturing some of their own material. How about that? Something to think about. I know that's a very niche thing, but it's a good example, all right? Support as much manufacturing done in America as you can, or at least somewhere that's not China. So I think Trump's done a good job. I agree with Ken. I know we can be very hypercritical, but the deal is you are never going to get what you want when it comes to the federal government. They're never going to actually give you what you want. Federal government is way too big. There's way too much politics going on. And so this is the world of what is possible. Is it possible to get a president to come into office and at least do better about enforcing immigration laws than what we had before? Yes, this is possible. Is it possible to get a president that will come in and start playing hardball with China, who rips us off in so many ways? Yes, the answer is yes. And so politics is the art of the possible. And so you've got to curb your expectations. Those are my thoughts. Clayton makes a point here. Trump's top visitor. Did you mean advisor? I just want to make sure before I comment on there, Clayton. Do you mean Trump's top advisor wouldn't say America first? Or Israel first, your thoughts? So I'm making sure I'm understanding I don't know what you mean Trump's top visitor. Would that be Netanyahu? Is that what we're referring to there? I don't know who his top visitor would be. So just make sure I understand. Am I on the right page? Am I thinking what you're thinking? And then let me know. So once again, my thoughts are, my expectations when it comes to federal government, I just set the bar so low. That's what I try to do. So if you set the bar really low in federal government, then you're not let down as much, okay? If they do anything more than keeping the government from giving every spare cent we have to some other nation or building abortion clinics, you almost call it a win. Miriam Adelson. I don't know if I saw that story. You know, I do want to hear more America First, speech. I mean, we can have allies in this world. Now, you can debate who should be an ally, whether Israel should be an ally, whether England should be an ally. I'm not a big fan of England at all, or Britain, the UK as an ally. But I don't know the story, so I won't speak to that. Any language that's not, if we have somebody involved with the administration who is not saying anything about America First, that is troublesome. Yeah, so I'll have to look into that. No, you're good. I understand, Clayton. I've commented before, and you have to say a lot in a little. I get it. All right, so those are my just reflections right now on the Trump administration, where things stand. Could I be super critical? Of course I can. At the same time, can I be practical? I think that's true as well. It's the American government, all right? What did you expect? It's kind of like going, let's see here. How can I use an analogy? It's like going to McDonald's and expecting let's give Randy White something to gloat about. It's like going to McDonald's and expecting a Whataburger cheeseburger and a Brahms milkshake. Okay, you're just not going to get it. When you go to McDonald's, you're going to get a McDonald's burger for what it is, and you're going to get their fake ice cream milkshake. That's what you're going to get. Okay? When it comes to federal government, you're going to get what you can get. Now, there's some variance there. Maybe the fries are going to be warm. Maybe they're going to be cold. Maybe the burger's going to have one pickle on it. Or maybe somebody will put 2 or 3 pickles on there. You just got to curb your enthusiasm and your expectations there. But no, I'll have to look into, I'm going to make a note there, Clayton, on Miriam Adelson. I haven't done any reading on that, so I won't. I try not to pretend like I am an expert on some things when I haven't read it. I've got a note for me. So thank you. That's how I've learned a lot of this stuff. You guys just tell me, hey, have you read about this? And I'll say, no, I haven't, because I'm ignorant of a lot of things. I never claim to be an expert. All right, now let's move away from big, broad federal government down to local government. Okay, nice local governance, which is really the key. That way we wouldn't have to even worry, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to care about who the top visitor to the White House was, or what even the president had to say? Because hey, that guy, he controls a fraction of our tax dollars to simply ensure that there is some interstate organization and enforcing the simplest of federal law. Okay. Oh, Clayton, I've got my fancy watch on, and Clayton just sent me a link, so I'll watch this now, or I'll watch it later to investigate it. Now, the first thing I want to discuss, I want to discuss the Oklahoma governor's race, because I'm trying to tier this here. Okay, we did international, we did national. Now we're going to statewide. Now we're going to get even more local here in a moment. But the governor's race in Oklahoma specifically, but pay attention to your state as well. I would love to see the state of Minnesota, for example, to one day, maybe one day, get that silly Governor Walz out of there and get a real governor. But the Oklahoma governor's race, we had an event over the weekend at Freedom Acre Farms. With Jake Merrick, and I once again encourage you, if you're an Oklahoman, to look at his platform, his position. We're gonna talk about this more on Friday, looking at comparing and contrasting, basically just kind of the broad presentation that the different gubernatorial candidates give, and some of the things about Jake's race that really stands out to me. Unfortunately, the ones that are getting a lot of attention, not even the top 2 or 3 are, I think, are a big change. Okay, I'll just put it that way. Here's my thoughts. Okay, take Trump. All right, I'm going to use him as an analogy here. There's good and there's bad, right? As with every politician. But I will say, prior to Trump being in office, the Republican Party was way less, I would say way less conservative, as well as way less nationalistic. The conservative or Republican Party was the party of Mitt Romney, and I'm drawing a blank here. I'm trying to recall. He's passed now. He was the, senator? Was he a senator out of Arizona? And I'm completely drawing a blank. Former in the military, had a daughter who ran also, involved in politics, at least to some capacity. Y'all know the name. I can't think of it. Somebody please help me. McCain. Thank you, John McCain. So it was very much the party, Mitt Romney, John McCain. None of those that we would say are really what we would think of as rock rib conservative. They were, from what I can recall in my young, inexperienced mind, mostly focused on the fiscal aspects of it. Maybe they would pay some lip service to enforcing border policy, immigration. That was largely it, okay? Now Trump, whether you like the guy or not, let me at least say he has shifted the conversation. Now, politicians are much more, at least paying lip service to shutting the border down, arresting, incarcerating illegals, deporting illegals. I mean, that's just a whole lot more now at the forefront of the discussion. Now, I know even Trump has said some things when he talks about giving amnesty to farm workers. No, Trump, no. That's bad Trump, okay? Bad Trump over here, good Trump over here. This is good Trump being, let's build a wall, a big, beautiful wall. We're going to build it so high, you'll be able to see it from Mexico City, and they'll say, wow, that's a very big wall. Who built that? All right. That's good Trump. We like that. Okay, Trump giving amnesty to farm workers, we don't like that. Another thing, which, once again, for all of the Christians, the bleeding heart evangelicals who think Trump is just mean, and he's been divorced, and Trump is a bad person because he says naughty things. If you did not get Trump, you would not have had Roe v. Wade struck down. Okay? Roe v. Wade, which legalized abortion federally across all states. Trump is the one that appointed those judges. Now, you can also give a lot of credit. Mitch McConnell, even though, Mitch McConnell, we're not always super thrilled with him. He said a lot of things that were kind of silly. But, okay, when it came down to it, who was the guy that was in charge of the Senate and seeing to Trump's judge appointees being passed, being approved? All right, so you need to give Trump credit. This is good Trump over here. Good Trump getting Roe v. Wade struck down with the help of Mitch McConnell, right? I feel like my Mitch McConnell's pretty good. It's not too hard. You just got to talk slow and talk low. So credit to them. Credit where credit's due. Why am I talking about Trump again? Here's my point. Trump was not status quo. Jeb Bush was status quo. Okay? There were some others that were in that group. Ted Cruz, status quo to a degree, right? Ted Cruz has probably fallen out of favor with some folks nowadays. He's had some real fumbles, I feel like, in recent years. But to stay off that subject, the point is, in Oklahoma, we are tired of the status quo. We have been having politicians, conservatives, paying lip service. And what they do is they buddy up to Trump. You'll see that a lot on Friday when we look at some of the different gubernatorial candidates. They just try to tie themselves to Trump. And here's the thing. I told this to Jake Merrick when I did the interview. I told him, I said, Trump is a stepping stone. Okay? It's so uncool for me, all right, to be a 30-year-old really being pretty generous to Trump, okay? A lot of the people my age, just so I'm bridging the gap here between the older groups and the younger, the younger guys in the room are kind of saying, no, Trump is not conservative enough. Trump is, bought out by whatever groups, whether here in the United States or abroad, right? Whether that is Israel or some other group, okay? No, Trump's just in it with these people, and I don't know, there's a lot of money being exchanged. You would be crazy to think that people aren't offering presidents money or some sort of bribery, whatever, to get in line. Now, maybe it's not outright bribery because, you got quid pro quos and everything, but incentives, what have you. But I'm just going to say, when you look at the scope of the political field and how things have been going, right? Trump was a wrench in the system. He was an outsider. And to a degree, he even still is. Okay? And I know that's weird to say because he is the president, but I'm just telling you, it is different. It's distinct from what the Republican Party would have been. We want somebody who is not a part of the system in Oklahoma. We reject what's been going on for the past several years, actually past several decades. We want somebody to bring serious reform to DHS, not somebody who stays away from it. DHS is a major problem, a major source of violation. So many parental rights and just people's lives have been destroyed because of DHS. All right, this is going to be a major thing in Oklahoma, I really do believe, as more information comes out. We also want an Oklahoma first policy. I really am tired of the pandering. You see so many governor candidates say, we're going to help Trump to do this, to do that. Let Trump worry about the federal government, okay? And then when he does good, I say good Trump, all right? Wow, what a fantastic president. And then when he does bad things, we'll say, no, Trump, over here. Get back over here. Focus, all right? I don't know who whispered in your ear. I don't know what Pam Bondi told you, okay? Quit listening to them. Quit listening to Fox News. Get back over here, all right? Be good, Trump. Let Trump be Trump. Let's let him do the federal stuff. Quit trying to say that we're going to be a part of the big federal plan to accomplish whatever. No, I'm tired of that language. I want Oklahoma first policy. That's what we want. We want state sovereignty. We want a gubernatorial candidate. We want a governor that is not worried about trying to keep up with other states and seeing who can kind of play the pander game the most. I feel like that's what happens a lot, right? We declare Oklahoma, whatever, freedom first state. Okay, well, hot dog. Yeah, that'll look good. What are you actually doing to make that happen? Are you removing a lot of the restrictions on businesses to be able to operate? Okay? I'm not saying that all restrictions are bad. I was talking to Clayton the other day, and Clayton made some good points about, hey, if you've got, manufacturing facilities, you do need to consider some environment considerations, okay? I mean, you got to factor that in. But as far as like the legal matters, I mean, do you really have to fill out 537 forms to be able to keep a business up to date and operating? Is that really necessary? One of the interesting things is how difficult it is if you do any kind of manufacturing. Where are you allowed to do manufacturing at? And the broad terms of manufacturing. They may think manufacturing is, I don't know, you're producing a whole bunch of waste because you're performing, some kind of synthesis of materials. I don't know. And then they say, well, you can't be operating here because you're doing manufacturing. It's going to be loud equipment. You've got huge diesel engines going. No, manufacturing can be as simple as running 3D printers. 3D printers are very... You could have a 3D printer running on this desk right now, and it wouldn't be creating some massive toxic or loud disruption, right? So we've got to be very practical about all of the documentation and legal matters concerning how businesses run and how businesses operate. Let's be very free. So my point is, we want somebody to come in and really shake things up, be an outsider, okay? We want the more Trumpian type candidate for our state. right? Hopefully, we would want Trump to be American first, and I think that all of you who are critical of maybe some things that he says sometimes or how policies may play out, by all means, okay, hold his feet to the fire, because, hey, even if you are erring on the side of caution, at least you're erring on the side of caution there, okay, as opposed to maybe letting them drift away from where they should be focused on. So we want that for our state as well. Now, finally, getting to another local matter is going to be school board elections. When I say school board elections, let me say school bond elections. So let me say that I grew up in a school district that it is just about impossible to get a bond passed. Let me say, the school's basketball gym, you could have games rained out because the gym leaked so bad, okay? And it was coming up from underneath. Like, that's how bad this situation was. It wasn't just a roof fix. It was a foundational issue. So it's crazy to think that you could have a basketball game rained out, but that's what was happening. The school could not get a bond to pass to build a gym. For all the people who are no votes, as a matter of fact, I made a post. I made a Facebook post because I really felt strong about addressing this matter, and I'm just going to read it. I'll read it verbatim because I think it pretty much captures my position here, my thoughts on this matter. So I'm going to read my post, so that way you know exactly what I had to say about this. So here's what I said. And I believe what I said, okay? For all the people who are always no votes on school bond elections, there are times when a bond may not be justified. However, when a school can't even pass a bond to do something as simple as adding basic facilities to buildings, here is something to keep in mind. You are driving the schools away from local government and forcing them to rely on federal money. Let me be perfectly clear. You are encouraging big government and greatly hurting local governance. The schools will have to find a way to get their needs met. If the community will refuse to do so, they will have no choice but to take federal grants and resources. That is something to keep in mind if you claim to stand for small and local governance, but never are willing to bear the weight of that responsibility. I think this is true. There are people out there who live way out in the country who say, I don't want the government to be too big. I'm for small. I want government so small you can fold it up and put it in your pocket. And so they see, misguidedly, bond elections as, this is just another money grab by the government, more tax, more tax, more tax. You are thinking about this all wrong because you are oblivious to reality. Believe it or not, the public school system, which may have a number of flaws. There are a number of schools that have a lot of problems. Not every school is bad. Don't throw every public school under the bus. Okay? There are some good public schools out there. But the point is, public schools have operating expenses, and they need basic things. For example, this bond election, one of the things it would have included, that this bond election that did not pass, would have added bathrooms to the school cafeteria. The school cafeteria, which is a separate building from anywhere else on the grounds, anywhere else on the campus, does not even have bathrooms for students. Just kind of unheard of, all right? That cafeteria is decades old. I don't know how old that cafeteria is. It's decades and decades. This was a modest bond by every metric. When a community, a school district, will not pass bonds to meet basic needs, we're not talking about building some $10 million football stadium. Okay? There's a legitimate discussion you can have about, hey, we are spending too much money on these facilities. A school doesn't need a $10 million football facility, all right? No matter how big the school may be, there's room for for all of that discussion, okay? I'm here for you, all right? I get it. Basketball gyms can be a lot more modest than what some schools do. I get it. We can have that conversation. But when a school cannot get a bond passed to put bathrooms in a cafeteria, here's what you are doing for everybody who is a no vote and you claim small government, I don't want to be taxed. You are encouraging, ready? Listen, you are encouraging big government. Okay? You are Myra, I saw your comment, the stadium would pass. In a lot of schools, yes. A lot of school districts, not this school district. This school districts, they haven't passed a bond in I don't know how long. They actually tried to pass a bond for a basketball gym and couldn't get it to pass. So I get what you're saying. The stadium, oftentimes the stadium would pass and then they'll neglect other things. That's a problem in some school districts as well. This school district's a little bit of a different story. But here's my point though. How do you think these schools operate? If you are not going to pay to cover expenses for the school on a local level, what do you think a part of the superintendent's job is? They have to find a way to fund the school. It's not just balancing a budget, it's finding money to keep the lights on. And if you won't do it, if the community won't take care of the school to meet basic needs, once again, we're not talking about basketball gyms or whatever else, that you would say is not necessary, and you may be justified in that, absolutely. We're talking about basic needs. You are encouraging the federal government to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Did you know that school districts now cannot operate without the federal government? I'm sorry, it's that time of year, allergies. That's true for, I would say, probably 90%, 99% of school districts. I'm not sure. Whatever state you're in, they rely on federal money to be able to stay open because they're not getting enough support to operate what they have, what they need for their staff and whatever else. And you can talk about changing the budget. You can talk about, hey, how many do we need? A principal, an assistant principal? Do you need a superintendent and an assistant superintendent? Like, I get that we can have those conversations. That's a conversation that, Jake Merrick brought up on his show, talking about, hey, are we being responsible here with administrations and whatnot? But my point is, no matter what you did with administrations, how you may rearrange it, say, all right, if a school has less than 1,000 students total, then you just need one principal. You don't need an elementary and a high school. You can have all the conversations you want. That is not going to make up for the lack of support from the community. So, don't say that you are for small government if you are not willing to at least bear the minimum burden of what small governments requires. Because you're only driving school districts into the arms of big money from the federal government. Because they can't rely on the local community to meet their needs. So they have to turn to the federal government. That's just the reality. That's the reality on the ground, okay? So, if you're someone who just always votes no on any school bond, you are hurting yourself because you're making the federal government bigger and you're really taking away the power of the local school district. Keep that in mind. Just something to consider on the local government's level. It's going to cost you something. The more that you are self-reliant, the more responsibility it's going to be, whether fiscally, with time, with other resources, you name it. There's no free lunch here. So if you pass the buck on helping a school put bathrooms on a cafeteria, you know what you're going to do? You're going to pay more federal taxes because the federal government is going to come and they're going to offer grants, and schools can eventually apply for those grants and get those grants, get that support, Now, not always. I'm not saying that grant money is just an automatic. Schools get turned down for grant money all the time, but that's how they do it. That's the path when the school district won't do it. So you have this hypocritical view of the world. And you know what? The school district's not going to come and take your money because y'all get to vote on it. The federal government just will. The federal government just will. They'll do it because they've done it before. They've been doing it. Something to keep in mind for all the no votes when it comes to school bond elections. If you want to have small governance, you better be willing to bear the weight of small governance. All right, that's a lot of politics that we've talked about today. A lot of politics. So, how about we have some theology now? All right, let's move on. Let's move on into a little bit of theology here. We've got an article here from CARM. Okay, so CARM, we're going to have a good lesson example here on hermeneutics. The difference in interpreting the Bible. So here's what CARM has to say. Who or what, is Mystery Babylon by Matt Slick. I don't know who Matt Slick is. I don't know if he's all that slick or not. We're going to find out. October 7th, 2025 is when this was posted. So very recently, within the week. So let's, or within the past week, let's take a look at it. Mystery Babylon is described in the book of Revelation as a powerful and immensely wealthy great city, full of idolatry. It is symbolized by the great harlot. This harlot is very wealthy since it is clothed in purple and scarlet and glittering with gold, precious stone, and pearls. It will acquire worldwide authority as it will be seated on many waters. Once in power, it will persecute believers, as is described by being drunk with the blood of the saints and the witnesses of Jesus. It allies with the beast, who appears to be a political figure who is about to come up out of the abyss. The beast, a political system / Antichrist, is ultimately the instrument of her destruction prior to God's final judgment. Babylon will fall in a great judgment. Revelation 18:8. All right, so that's pretty good. Yeah, that's about right. I don't know what Bible version they're using. Probably the ESV, Evangelical Standard Version. So let's see how they approach. How would you interpret who is Mystery Babylon, right? Who is Mystery Babylon? Now, they do include some cross-references here. Verse summary, or verse summation, Revelation 17:1. The great harlot who sits on many waters. The waters are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. This is good, right? They're letting Revelation interpret Revelation, which is exactly what you should do. Revelation 17:2 commits acts of immorality. Revelation 17:3, it is full of blasphemies, has 7 heads and 10 horns, and explains that, yes, the 7 heads are 7 mountains, and there's 7 kings and everything else. We're going to go ahead and jump to the presentation, because we can get all that from the scriptures. The various interpretations, and this is going to be very telling on, how is somebody going to approach the Bible? What is their position? What's their view when it comes to interpreting Scripture? So here we go. Let's see the different options. First of all, the historical interpretation. This view is common among historical and preterist interpreters. Babylon is a reference to the Roman Empire of the 1st century, which persecuted Christians. This is supported by 1 Peter 5:13. She who is in Babylon, chosen together with you, sends you greetings, and so does my son Mark. Wow. Okay, right off the bat, hold on. Pump the brakes. Stop. Okay, it's almost like a Kirby Smart timeout, right? You know what I'm talking about. Some of you who watch college football will get that reference. 1 Peter 5:13 supports the preterist view. Excuse me. Let's just take a look. Let's take a look. All right, I'm already mad. How many calories? I wonder how many calories I burned. I've got my fancy smartwatch my wife got me for my birthday. I don't know how many calories I burned here getting mad and fired up. All right, so let's go ahead and go to 1 Peter. I actually addressed this in my guide to the Greek Scriptures, if you have watched any of that. Here we go, 5:13. To the church that is at Babylon, elected together with you, saluteth you, and so doth Marcus, my son. All the commentaries. All right, so let's just go ahead and do this. All right. 1 Peter 5:13, meaning. Let's see what Bible Ref has to say. Right off the top, very first one. Peter greets the Christian churches of Asia Minor on behalf of she who is in Babylon. Some scholars speculate that Peter may have been referring to his wife, and yet most agree this she is most likely another local church, possibly or probably the Christian church in Rome. Why Rome? For one thing, it is unlikely there was any church in the historical city of Babylon at this time. You know the meme? You know the meme? The guy saying, "You sure about that? You sure about that?" There were Jews in Babylon in the days of Peter. Peter may have been in Babylon. Okay? What are we talking about? It is unlikely there was any church in the historical city of Babylon at this time. Who said so? It is unlikely. There were Jews in Babylon in this time. You're telling me there couldn't have been believing Jews? Do you not remember when every Jew from under heaven was in Jerusalem in Acts chapter 2, and they all believed, and then they were all scattered after the stoning of Stephen? Does anybody read their Bible just to say, it is unlikely, it's impossible, it's very unlikely that there was any church in Wow. Is anybody else getting it? It's hot in here. I'm mad. Okay. So that's their first reason. We say so because we say so. And it is very unlikely, or it is very likely Peter was writing this letter from Rome. Why? Why? Who tells us that Peter was in Rome? Catholics? Catholicism tells us that Peter was in Rome? Why? Why do we say that Peter was in Rome? Well, because that's what they say. That's what they said. What's the thing that Dr. White says? Polly wants a cracker. Polly wants a cracker. Let's just repeat what we hear over and over again. Goodness gracious. All right, moving on. Also, Peter's Jewish readers would recognize Babylon as the traditional metaphor for those opposed to God's people. This is going to give me a migraine. Who said that Babylon has been a traditional metaphor for those opposed to God's people? Is that because we're going to go back into the Old Testament and read the prophecies of Babylon and allegorize that into oblivion? Is that what we're going to do? Why can't Babylon just be Babylon, folks? I mean, I know I'm just a backwoods country bumpkin reading his King James Bible, but to me it seems like Babylon's Babylon. This amazes me. This is the number one search. If you are to search, what does 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 13 mean? This is the very first one at the very top of all the search engines. I have no words. I have no words. Tim wants me to be fired up. Tim, I hope you're enjoying this because I am. Okay, moving on. Here's what else they have to say. Rome, in that time, was the geographical and political source of that opposition. Peter may have been protecting the Christians in Rome by using Babylon as a stand-in. Wow. So much sleuthing. So much, or could I also say, assuming? This is not Bible sleuthing. This is not deep scholarly work. This is just assumption after assumption. Their assumptions have assumptions. That's how you get to this point of modern Christianity. Not only do you have to question the assumptions, you have to question the assumptions that they assumed to get the assumption that they assumed about in this particular region of doctrine. They made an assumption, and then from that assumption they had another assumption, and then they made another assumption on that. It's just a big layered assumption cake. And it's not even a real cake. It's just a fake cake. It's all just made up. It's just a bunch of junk. In any case, Peter affirms that those Christians who are with him have been chosen by God for his purpose. So you say all of that to just say, well, you know, anyways. Okay, so that's why in this article, Carm says that it very likely means that this is Rome, because that's what everybody tells us. Moving on. The Roman Catholic Church, this is the Reformation interpretation. This view is contextually relevant because at the time of the Reformation, the Roman Catholic Church was and still is teaching great heresies, promoting idolatry, denying the true gospel of justification by faith alone in Christ alone. Yep, there you go. Are they even going to give my position on this? No. The global system. Mystery Babylon is the summation of an ungodly, worldwide economic and religious systems, or is the summation of these things that oppose God. It has occurred throughout history and will be more powerfully manifested during the end times. Did you notice? Okay, various interpretations. They gave the historical interpretation, which is the preterist view. They gave the Roman Catholic Church interpretation, which is, all right, I'm no Catholic. I'm not a Catholic nor the son of a Catholic. I've got a cousin who was raised Catholic. That's about as close to Catholicism as I can get, okay? But that is kind of just Protestant propaganda, okay? To say, see, that's it. Mystery Babylon. That's the Roman Catholic Church. And that's no different than saying it's the White House for modern people today, right? Because I imagine some bleeding heart progressive Christians are saying that now about Trump, but, you know, let's say in 2028 that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is president. I just shudder at the thought of it. That's so terrible. Will she be like, I think she's going to post pictures of her dancing on top of the White House. That is going to strike fear into the heart of all of our enemies. But we'll be saying, evangelical Christianity, some will be, saying, look, there it is, Mystery Babylon. Did you see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? She was wearing purple. You know what I'll use their word, the harlot. Maybe, so my live stream doesn't get taken down, I don't know. But you know what the harlot wore? Wore purple. She's wearing pearls and gold and what have you. And she sat upon the great beast, the Antichrist, which is, I don't know, maybe she's like going to stand up on top of Chuck Schumer's shoulders. I don't know. But anyways, I digress. So they give all these different interpretations, the global system, what have you. You notice an interpretation that's missing here? It would be the literal interpretation. It would be the literal interpretation that Babylon is Babylon. Okay? Let me say that again. Mystery Babylon is Babylon. As a matter of fact, when you read the chapter, okay, let's just read the chapter here in Revelation chapter 18. Let's go ahead and we're going to read, it's chapter 17. Sorry, Mom, I'm going to have to read the King James here. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit unto the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. I wonder who this could be. It really is a mystery. If only the Bible would tell us. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. It's just, it's a mystery. I have no idea. It's a mystery wrapped in an enigma. We will never know. If only we had something that said, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Mystery Babylon, that great city. I wonder what city is named Babylon. How about Babylon? Is this really that difficult? I'm just, why can we not just read the Bible literally? Well, the reason why evangelicals and whoever else can is because they read the Bible literally, then they don't get to do their name it and claim it. They don't get to take what they want and then apply it to themselves and give themselves all those little good feelings on the inside, making them feel all warm and fuzzy. So, Carm, once again, just a swing and a miss. Mary says Matt Slick is a post-trib rapture reformed theologist. Interesting. Post-trib rapture. That makes so much sense. We're going to make you go through all the tribulation, and then we're going to rapture you. I would expect him to be reformed because he's with Carm. Tim thinks that it's the Roman Catholic Church that's paying and manipulating the church or the search priorities. Let's see here. I'm going to look at a few more comments here. Let's see. Yeah, Ken and Paul are just right down the road, and yet they never come see me. All you gotta do is just drive an hour and a half. Actually, an hour. Drive an hour and 15 minutes, like at the most, and then you're here. Once again, Clayton's comments, he's gonna hold my feet to the fire and make me have to do research. I don't want to do that, Clayton. Fine, I'll read. Paul says, don't be mad. You'll see me soon again. Paul, it's been like a year. I don't know. When did I see you last time in person? I mean, just need to come and just join the church. You don't have to join. It's not a requirement. It'd be a lot cooler if you did. We're referencing all sorts of memes today. This is just a big meme dumpster fire of a show. Some of you will get that reference. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. All right, everybody. I'm in an hour and 4 minutes. I hope you enjoyed getting the whole show, right? Isn't this neat? Talked about, we just hit it all. We hit international, national, statewide, local, and then we topped it all off with a rant about doctrine from our silly friends over at Carm. Bless their hearts. Tim says tradition is so powerful, most people are afraid of finding out their tradition is wrong. Yeah, and and that's why, let's say Clayton, for instance. Clayton goes to my church. He's the fittest farmer. He won the fittest farmer competition. He knows how to drive them T-posts. Maybe also knows how to find the proper ground to drive T-post on too. But hey, he won. I'm just giving him a hard time. Clayton is someone who questions every single thing. That's why he's a right divider, for one, because he questions everything. So I'm impressed with him. So I'm trying to not just believe everything I've heard from tradition. And when he has something to say, I always listen. Paul says, LOL, I don't know. It's not that long, though. I think I'm part of our congregation. By our congregation, do you mean like this little thing right here? Or did you have a church that you go to, Paul? I can't remember. If so, have you started a Bible study yet? You should just be the pastor of the church. All right, everybody. I am going to cut all of you loose today You've heard me rant enough. Let me know. Send me an email. Send me a text if you agree. Do you think my takes on international politics were good? What about, hey, my overall grade of Trump? Am I being way too generous? Is at least the impression still good? Have I gotten a little bit rusty? And then let me know about local government stuff. I want to hear your thoughts. Appreciate each and every one of you who take the time to join us when we do go live, whether that's Sunday sermons, Bible studies, the Shields and Arrows. Tomorrow is going to be Theology Thursday. Bring your toughest, hardest theology questions. See if you can stump me, and I'll see if I can come up with an answer. Thank you all so much for watching Shields and Arrows. We will see all of you tomorrow.